Well, hi everybody. My name is Michael Hilkemeyer from ICTE Solutions Australia. Um, Today I'd like to welcome a special guest. I always feel very privileged, to have these opportunities, to meet with people um, of such expertise. And as if you are watching this as a member of the academy, you'll understand that I've been interviewing many people to do with technology integration, leaders in technology integration, teachers themselves. And today, like I said, my special guest today is Martin McGower. Is that how you pronounce your name, Martin?
Yeah, McGoran. I get all forms of it, so
That's
no offense
right.
taken.
Believe me, my surname, I've had many variations of it.
I was going to say I'm speaking to the right person if we're talking nickname surnames. I don't think you would get yours right very often.
Well, welcome, Martin. Like I said, it truly is, a pleasure and a privilege to meet you, and most importantly, to learn from your expertise, your knowledge, and your experience. And you are a cyber safety expert from Inform and Empower. And you do a lot of work with primary schools. I think you do some as well with secondary as well, a little bit.
Focusing on just primary at the moment, we very much have secondary schools interested in the work we're doing, but being a small team, watch this space at the moment. But yeah, primary schools for certain.
Yep. Well, I was going to, like I said to you before, I think it's probably, a good thing to sort of draw a little bit from what you help primary schools with in terms of cyber safety, to start a bit further earlier in early childhood education. Because when we talk about technology integration in the learning environment, that's where it starts. And capabilities need to sort of then, progress on from there. So from your experience, Martin, how do you think, what is the best approach for an early childhood practitioner, whether it be, a childcare worker, or an educator, or a center director? What do you think, they can sort of draw from your experience in terms of how can they get young children to begin to understand the basic steps towards safety online today?
Okay, I think I had my sip of coffee and get it. It's a big question, and I'll come at it from a few different angles. I think one of the biggest things I would suggest is anyone who's working with young people, whether it's early childhood into primary school, would be to familiarize yourself as an adult, because what we're finding is this huge gulf between the adults, teachers, parents, and carers and the young people, where it's sort of this whole keep things at arm's length. Yeah, kids play these games, they use devices, they're on apps that we don't have the familiarity. And we really find it hard working with schools where, as a teaching cohort, if they don't have the understanding of what the kids are doing online, both in the school setting, but more importantly at home, it's really challenging to support them in all the things that we're going to talk about today, keeping kids safe online. So above all else, being curious about what kids are up to and not sort of just dismissing like, oh, they play Roblox or they play Minecraft or they create on apps and games or they watch content online that is designed for kids. Lean into their world, and the curious questions you can ask of kids, just coming into an open conversation with young people, can do so much more than any sort of explicit teaching. So what I mean by that is how we might ask kids about their weekend and the sport they played, or went away on holidays. What did you get up to? What did you enjoy most? Us as adults, and I'm talking parents and carers and educators in that same bracket, is one of the biggest things we can do is just lean into that world to ask them and treat their online experiences like anything else. It shouldn't be this whole separate thing. And like, what is their favorite game? Why do they love that game? And have you come across anything? Who else plays that game? What do your friends do? The more of those curious questions we can set up, it allows you to bring yourself into their world where all the help seeking and the safety first things that can come afterward. But if you don't have a relationship around the tech, I think that is a huge one, that launching into just teaching kids online safety is problematic if you as an adult don't have an appreciation for what makes them tick. Why do they love it? So I think that's probably, in answer to your question, that's the biggest advice I could share with educators and parents alike, is to lean into their world, find out who Mr. Beast is. He's a YouTuber. He influences every child that's accessing YouTube in some way, shape, or form. If you're wondering why Mr. Beast chocolate bars are at your local Woolworths or Coles, there's a good reason that your kids can tell you about that, because of who he is as an online personality. So yeah, leaning into their world, I think, is so important, and it allows you to then make connections and build on all those safety ideas as well.
Well, I think that's, good advice, Martin, because like one of the key responsibilities of well, just not just an early childhood educator, but also primary teachers as well. But in this instance, early childhood, one of the best things that they can be is to be responsive to a child's needs. And what you said, being curious, and reaching into that, delves into that sort of being responsiveness. Find out what their interests are. Find out what their skills and capabilities are, the knowledge is, in terms of technology, and watch them. And then I think, you could possibly, even like, once you get into that area, then you can say, sort of branch into helping them to be more safe online, and think, well, while we're going, looking into, this, this animal's life on YouTube or something like that, let's find out what we can do to be safe online. How can we do this safely? How can we be sure that this is the right information? And that's just that sort of things. Would you agree to that? Or
Yeah, absolutely. And that whole like if we're talking, as you suggested there, with that early childhood, so much of that co-use, if you're working and co-playing, and even like games that you might have no interest as a parent, just to spend that little bit of time playing. Like, lots of parents do this, and it's a fantastic way to sort of role model and build that rapport around it, that even if you're not really into the game they're playing, setting aside that little bit of time and getting them to teach you and letting them be the expert is an amazing way for you then to ask curious questions, like around. So one of the big risk factors we know about young people online is who they could be interacting with. So many games are building in chat functions and other players, and from a younger and younger age, that's becoming a risk that kids and parents have to manage. But to do that from afar and just say, don't talk to strangers online, or just give like sort of one-way messaging, I think is what I'm trying to get at. With just that one-way messaging is problematic. Whereas if you're co-playing with your kid and then they're in their account and you're like, oh, who's that username? Oh yeah, do they often play together? And just those little curious questions. Oh, what level are you on at the moment? What happens when you go to the next level? Oh, there are different players on there. Can you message that player if you want? Why did that pop up? All those little curious questions that you can only have if you're investing that time in spending some time with them, because we know that just to parrot messages to kids, like in any learning, we know that's not how kids learn. They learn by being immersed. So you can definitely do that in this online safety space. Immerse yourself in it, and all those little curious conversations you can have, and you'll have a hoot of a time, because you will be, I guarantee you, the amount of kids that I play with when I'm gaming, whether they're nieces, nephews, or kids in classrooms that I'm teaching, they are so much better than us as adults. Their dexterity on the controllers and the playing, and you'll be made to look like a fool, which is brilliant. Kids love that, seeing the old person have a go at their game and be made to look like an absolute fool. But absolutely, is that going to set them up for when you need to have the hard conversations? You're building blocks because you've spent time in their world, and the credibility that you've got far outweighs you waltzing in there as either a teacher or a parent and just saying, hey, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing this, don't chat to strangers, end of story. Not going to be something that lands in their psyche ongoing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's in terms of what you said, like with like with adults, practitioners getting in there and playing the game and looking a little bit like a bit of a like a fool, a bit of a a bit
And
helpless.
a
I think
noob, as the kids would call you, a noob.
yeah, absolutely. I think that's just like what we as educators, and even adults, parents, are always going to be like. I think we've got to be one ball behind, because of the way that each generation is brought up. So yeah, very relevant point there. Um, have you come across any apps or software programs? Do you have any, anything like that yourself that early childhood educators could sort of maybe use as a program, to help begin to educate young children in that area? Or
Yeah, I think anything when it comes to online safety, I do like Common Sense Education, which lots of people might be familiar with. Common Sense Media is the broader organisation. Their website, a whole host of free resources. They're a great place to go to, both in school and as parents and carers, to actually do a quick search as to the suitability of a game or an app. Is Common Sense Media, but Common Sense Education, their little branch, has lots of really age appropriate, scaffolded. So there's kinder, pre-K, all the way up through primary and to secondary resources. So it'd be a really good starting point if you're new in this space or you're looking at resources. Lots of schools do already tap into Common Sense Education. And of course, in Australia, the eSafety, the Office of the eSafety Commissioner, has some great little resources and picture storybooks and animations that are ideal for that early childhood years as well. There's some great free resources on either the eSafety website themselves. You can filter by age group and all sorts of topics, as well as Common Sense Education. I know educators tuning in, particularly in Australia and New Zealand, might know Hector's World. It's been around for a long time. It's a little animation teaching young kids to be safe online. They're just relaunching it because it was getting a little bit dated with the computers, and it was probably 15, 20 years old. So the messaging's always been good, but they're just, and as this is December 2023, I think it was either coming out now or early next year, Hector's World's another great little resource, really age appropriate for those pre-K years as well.
to learn more about how to successfully integrate technology into your early childhood learning environment, become a member of the ICT in Education Teacher Academy today and gain instant access to over 80 plus online PD workshops, webinar replays, technology integration lesson plans for early childhood education, and ebooks, all for just $20 per month. You'll find the link below this video in the description.